What's up, Fish Tube? Bearded Bob once again, bringing you a December update. Haven't been on here much lately. I try to respond to messages and whatnot, but haven't been making any videos lately, so we'll try to end that trend and start a new one. So let's do a fish room tour quick. Here is this rack of 10-gallon tanks, and in here there are peppermint twist endlers and this orange line that I'm trying to make of Neocaridina. Most of these oranges came out of my yellow Neo colony, and some of them came out of the coal tank. We kind of mixed them together, and I've been just kind of selectively pulling. Like here's one nice orange Riley, or whatever you want to say. And then just letting them breed, do their thing, pulling out the ones that are yellow and just keeping on top of it. As you can see, there's some babies up here. They're looking, some of them are okay. We'll have to pull some of those out. These peppermint twist endlers, there's too many of them in this tank now. They've kind of grown up. I got to get them into a bigger tank soon. I think there's 10 of them in there right now. And it looks like some of the females have been hit, so we'll have to give them some room to do their thing. Yeah, and moss-wise, that's, from what I understand, from the research and asking people about it, that's going to be Christmas moss in the back, and then this appears to be weeping moss in the front, and then just some crypts and whatnot in there. Here is the Blue Dream tank. These guys are doing awesome. For some reason, this last drop of shrimplets, I had a ton of I mean, they're red rillies. I don't know where they came from. I guess at some point in the line that I bought here, they had been crossed with some reds, because they are definitely red Rileys and Rillies, whatever. There's one right there, center of the frame. Let's see if it'll focus. Right in the middle there. You see them? That's red. I don't know where that came from. The rest of these guys are blue. They look blue. They're beautiful blue, dreamy blue. Some of them are a little bit, they've got some carbon in them. And then we have the Stay endlers. These ones I got from Lucas Brett's, the Stay endlers. I got a pair a while back. Don't know exactly when. And they've been doing their thing. I think I have about 3 fry in here right now. Of course, they're not going to show up. I don't know where they went. Hiding in the back, maybe? They don't really like the camera. Yeah, we'll come and see if we can check back in on them. I see a little one down there. Oh, there's the male. He is beautiful. And then in this tank, we have the colony of rainbow tiger endlers. I had already pulled the one big female that was in here, and she had had a couple of fry, so I pulled those guys out too. She was definitely a mixed, if not just a plain old guppy. She had a lot of color in her tail. Endler females should not have any color in their tail. So we pulled them out, and then the females that ended up, that grew up from the batch that I got, there's a few of them like this one right here. See how she's super skinny. So we've been treating with some General Cure. Tonight I'll do the 25% water change and put them back on the system. Right now there's no water circulating, so that it's just separated here. I've got the overflow pulled, or stuck up in the air I should say, just so that, you know, they're kind of segregated here, so we don't have to add 50 gallons worth of General Cure. We can just do one tank. So I pulled out, there was some weeping moss in here, but it was all just covered in hair algae. So I pulled all of that out, and I put in this little bit of Java moss. It looks like there's some weeping moss in the bottom there too. But pulled out all that Java moss, or this little bit of Java moss that I had in another tank, and shoved it in here, because I don't have any tanks that just have Java moss. So we're going to try to get some of that growing, and we got some water wisteria, some crypts, this AR cardinalis, and I think that's it for that tank. Oh, we got the yellow Neo project, this painted yellows that I'm trying to do. So these guys, or gals, on their their exterior, their shell, they have tons of pigmentation, just bright yellow pigmentation. It's if you check out my Instagram, I have some close-up pictures of them on there. You can kind of see what I'm talking about. You can't really see it through the camera here, that's too bad. I can try to zoom in, but it always ends up really bad. So you can kind of see how the top of the shell, and then going down the sides a little bit, has that little bit of really opaque coloration. There's a really good one right there. So it's yellow bodied, like the interior is all yellow, it's light yellow, and then growing over the top of it is this yellow like exoskeleton or whatever, or if it's just pigmentation under the skin, not really sure. So we're trying to get those guys to breed, try to do their own line. Sorry, zooming out. And then down here we just have the sump. There's no shrimp or fish or anything down here. Extra heater that I pulled out just in case. Alright, that's it for that little rack there. Now this one, we have, this used to house all of the guppies. You can see my last update last month or whatever, there was just a billion of them. Well, I ended up bringing a lot of them into my local fish store and trading them in, getting some food and stuff and a couple other fish for my son. And we just wanted to kind of start over because there were so many guppies, and they were all just kind of fancy guppies. There was nothing too special about them. They weren't a line. So I pulled this tank, I cleaned it out, and then reset it up with just some moss and some algae that just keeps growing and growing and growing. It's algae season here at Bearded Bob's Fish Room. Stuck in some little driftwood, and I got a little piece of this flame moss, so I'm trying to get that to start growing separately here. Just got some crypts down there. I don't know what kind of crypts those are. And then we started putting in some of the, what I thought were better looking blue dreams out of the colony tank from over there. And we put them in here, and they've already started having some babies. But again, in this one, I ended up having a bunch of little red babies. I'm not really sure what happened. They've been breeding since like July, and I've never had anything but like blue shrimp. So whatever, we pulled them, and as I see them, they're super tiny still. They're super small shrimplets. But as I see them, I pull them out of here, and I got a separate little tank that I'm kind of throwing everything that I'm not sure what to do with yet in there, and we're going from there. So besides some Christmas moss, there's some weeping moss here growing on the log, tons of algae growing through everything. Those crypts, we got some AR. I got one little piece of water wisteria that I just shoved in here, and some other crypts over on this side. These are Windedi crypts, and that's that. So this one's on the automatic drip system for now, but you can see a big piece of hair algae that's dying up there, hanging out. Look at that big mound of moss. They're algae. Ugh. Alright, algae farm. So anyways, yeah, this one's on the automatic drip system. You should see a little drip coming in every once in a while in the back there. There it was. And then I just have this homemade overflow, which I showed how to do these on my channel last year sometime. I still use them. These ones have never had to be reprimed or anything. They keep going and going and going. They're awesome. And it just drips out the side into this pipe that goes down to my little pump down there. Like a sump pump almost. It's a condensate pump. Down here, again, this used to be the male guppy tank. We pulled the male guppies out. We sent them into the local fish store. Oops, don't want to see my hands. And repurposed this tank. Moved the my Corys that I had, and there was 4 neon tetras left in there, and then there's 1 bristlenose pleco in here too somewhere. We moved all those in there. Oh, and there's also at least two shrimp, big shrimp, mono shrimp. So those guys have been down in this tank for a long time, and we just kind of left them in there. They're doing their thing. I just saw them yesterday. I was surprised that they're still in here. They've been in here for about a year, I think. Alright, hold on one sec. And we're back. Yeah, so that's this tank. Nothing really special. Tons of water wisteria. I've been pulling this out by the handfuls pretty much weekly. We do have some, not money wort, what the heck is that there? Of course I can't think of it while I'm on camera. There's that stuff. There's some AR Gardenalis again, some crypts, and then just a ton of this water wisteria. I think there's a couple stems of red Ludwigia in here too, doing its thing. And then of course wouldn't be an aquarium in my fish room without a ton of duckweed. Just everywhere. Speaking of duckweed, here's some more just for you. Down here I set this up a couple months back and moved all of my yellow or my neo Chiridinicals into it, and also have I think 9 or 10 of these Blue Star Endler males, and it's kind of cool. Look at them; they school up in this tank. I don't know what it is, but they hunt in packs. Yeah, and they chase each other around all day. It's quite entertaining to watch. So if you want to have a lively tank, get yourself a bunch of male Blue Star Endlers. And we just have an overgrowth of Christmas moss taking over this tank. And then just the traditional, some crypts and some AR. And then tons of snails. And there's also, I think, like 7 or 8, autosynclase catfish strewn about in here too. And they take care of all the algae in this tank. Never have any issues with that. I also supplement their diet with some algae tablets. Ooh, and dropping the phone. And some homemade food that I made from harvesting all this duckweed. Oh, check this one out. Kind of a brown kind of colored shrimp there. Pretty cool looking if you ask me. We have tons of different colors, and it's kind of fun to look through here and find stuff to add to other tanks, you know? So I started a tank of oranges that came from this tank and the one right above this, the yellow Neo Colony. I also started a red shrimp tank out of these, some cherries, you know? And then started just recently pulling out some of the green ones that have been in here. If you check out my Instagram page, if you want to, don't really care. I've got some pictures of some of the cool greens that I have. Like there's one right there. Kind of a weird colored greenish yellow, blue, I don't know what to call that. But there's some pretty cool ones that I pulled out and added to a different tank. Sorry, the video's getting all choppy and weird for some reason. Moving on, we've got the yellow Neo tank. This is a 55 gallon. I just this morning cleaned these pre-filter sponges out, so we got a ton of flow going right now, which will help kind of kill off some of that duckweed, I hope. But otherwise, I mean, there's so much of it. I pull it out every week, most times, and it just piles up, and just keep pulling it out. But I did make some awesome food with it, so I'll show you that in a little bit here. In here we have just got a ton of weeping moss, a ton of Christmas moss, more Christmas moss, kind of a mix of moss down here, not really sure. There is some Java moss right there, you can see it kind of going crazy, sticking out. I'm going to try to get that out of this weeping moss mat. Some AR, some more of this money wort or whatever this stuff is. And then here's all the yellow Neos. See if we can focus in a little bit. You can see there's a couple I need to cull out of here already, and this one is just always a work in progress. I'm always pulling. See, like that one right there. Won't focus. Anyway, there's one right there that has like a spot missing of yellow right on its head. So we'll pull that out and drop it down in the cull tank. There's some more autosynclase catfish in there. I think there's 5 in this tank, and there's one bristle nose. You can see him in his little cave down here hiding. There's a bunch of yellow Neos kind of hiding underneath all this I mean, it's like a forest full. You can't even hardly see into this. Look at this. It's just packed. Tons of that. Cryptowindeti. I think there's greens, bronzes. I think there's some reds or something in there too. So that's that tank. And then we've got the floor. This is the Goldfish tank. I did a water change, but I didn't clean the glass on his tank. But he's just been... I just threw all these plants in there, and he just kind of munches them. And when they start to look, you know, pretty bare, like this stuff down here, I'll just pull it out and throw it away. But usually I pull it out of there, dunk it in here for a couple of days. He gets what he wants out of it. All the snails and stuff kind of fall off. He eats those too. For some reason, he doesn't eat these bigger snails, which is kind of cool because these snails have gotten just ginormous. Look how big that guy is. I mean, there's my finger. Can't really see. Whatever. And then we've got this 20-gallon that last time you saw the goldfish, he was in here cleaning out this tank. We got all the shrimp and everything out of it, and I just kind of been throwing plants in here because it's still running. I pulled the heater, so there's no heater in there. So it stays at about 68 to 70 degrees. We've got a power strip there. Oh, here's another project I'm going to work on. One of these Jabao auto dosing pumps. So I got it all set up and tested. I will say, if you get one of these, get a graduated cylinder to test the water. Don't use a measuring cup. You know, I did that the first couple of times when I was trying to set it up, and I was thinking that this thing was dosing all kinds of crazy numbers, but it wasn't being consistent. And then I went and found something that actually measured milliliters instead of cups, and it did awesome. It's perfect, spot on, right on the money. From 100 milliliters all the way up to like 2,000 milliliters, it's perfect. So there you go. So this is going to be for an auto water change system that we're trying to get set up right now. Here's a cool tank that I got. I picked up a bunch of tanks from a guy. This is a 40-gallon tall. So it's the same footprint as a 20-gallon tank, but it's just twice as tall. So I'm not really sure what I want to do in there, but we'll figure something out. It's going to be fun. And then they had a deal on Amazon. This thing was 12 bucks. That's that Penguin 350, and that's the same one that I run on this tank here. And these things, yeah, they usually last a couple years. So it's about a year and a half that it's been running continuously. So we got another one as a backup just in case. We do have some RO water. I just kind of filled up these bins. This one doesn't have any buffering in it or anything like that yet. I'm waiting for my buffering for Caridina shrimp, and then this one is set up for water changes for Neo Caridina. And I got a little heater and a little power head in there and a thermometer, just to keep water flowing and keep it warm, because I've been using that to change water on all these. And I just realized I never cleaned the glass on any of these. So we'll start off. So all of these first 4 tanks, these are all shrimp that I got from Dan Aquatics. Check them out if you can. So this one is this one was sold to me as, I should say, Blue Diamond. So to me they look more like a Blue Dream. I'm not really sure what the difference is between Blue Diamond and Blue Dream. I've been trying to figure it out, but there's tons of conflicting information online. Hold on one sec. Like I said, tons of conflicting information. So I do have my first piece of Bucephalandra. It's 2 chunks there tied to a piece of lava rock. See, I got matin filters in all of these tanks, and those all came from Flip Aquatics. And then same thing with these pieces of wood here, this teddy bear cactus, or I don't remember what they call it here, cholla wood. And then just some crypts, some more of that moneywort. There's only 6 of them in here of the shrimp. They haven't bred out yet, so I'm not really sure what's going on. This tank's been set up for a few months already. And these guys went in there after about a month and a half, something like that. Yeah, they went in there. These guys haven't bred yet. These ones are Bloody Marys. And again, these ones haven't bred out yet either. This one is kind of, for some reason, this one gets tons of algae. This one just on the sides, a little bit here and there, but this one is just, I mean, I just scraped the glass a couple of days ago when I was changing water in it. But again, these Bloody Marys haven't yet had babies, so I'm kind of still waiting for that. Hopefully soon. These ones were Fire Reds. They were sold to me same time I got all the rest of these shrimp. These ones have tons and tons of babies. I mean, they're everywhere in this tank. Same kind of setup in all of these tanks, just some Christmas moss, some cholla wood, some crypts, some moneywort, and yeah, that's that. And then those matin filters. This one, I don't have a tag on it, but these were yellow golden backs. And again, these ones, oh, there's one. I thought I was getting green when I ordered them from them. These ones came in like 2 or 3 weeks maybe after the first batch, and these ones have already bred out. There's tons of little babies in here. Let's see if we can get some of those on there. There's one in the back there on the matin filter. Again, matin filter, sponge, whatever, and then just air powered. And then in here is where I've been throwing all these weird colors that I keep getting from that blue dream colony. So they all going into this 5.5 gallon tank. The rest of these are all 10s. I mismeasured when I built this stand. I should have been able to fit 5 10s on each area, but I forgot to adjust for the 2 2x4s, one on each side. So it shrunk me down. Luckily this 5.5 gallon tank fits perfectly in there. You can see all these odd color blues. Some of them have like total brown splotches on them, or complete red splotches on them. Some of them are just red, some of them are clear, and then some of them are definitely red Rileys or red Rillies or whatever. See, I can't really focus. Oh, there's a couple flying across the front, and then some of them are like blue colored body with red. Boy, they're just going crazy in there. Again, some cholla wood and just some moss in that one. No other plants yet. This is just kind of a temporary holding tank. And then we got these ones all set up in November. Tons of algae in here. Here's where I shoved some of the green shrimp. I wrote green jade on there, but they're not really green jade yet. They're just green tinted shrimp. And they're all probably hiding in this big rock pile that I put in there. Because there's a couple of guppies in here. I was trying to start a new thing with them, and they kind of reminded me of a turkey tail, so on the 1st of December I stuck 3 of them in here. There's 2 males and 1 female, which is what it is, but they all look pretty similar, and we're hoping that turf fry turn out to look kind of like, you know, those 2 males there. And then in here we just got some random plants, just some water wisteria. This one had that flame moss as well, little piece. In this tank, again, a little bit of flame moss, water wisteria. There's Nubius fraseri in there, and then just some water wisteria floating on top too. Here's more of the guppies from the original colony that I saved them because I forgot that they were in another tank. So this one, again, covered in tons of algae. Same thing, just random guppies. They're just in here holding the cycle and all that stuff. Just some random moss and stuff in the back, and some crypts, and then in this one here, same kind of thing. Just a little bit of everything plant-wise. There's some hair algae floating there I gotta yank out, and then just some guppies holding the cycle. So this one, you can see that little blue tube back there. This one is a little fountain pump. Submersible fountain pump, like a little, you know, it's probably, you know, 2 inches by 2 inches square. Same ones that I have in these tanks of RO water, kind of just cycling water. And I shoved a piece of this 1/4 inch tube in there, this RO tubing, and it fits perfectly inside the opening, the output on that little thing. So I stuck it through here, and this one is driven completely by that little pond pump instead of all the rest of these matin filters that are powered by sponge. So you can tell these ones don't have a lot of flow in them. You can tell why. I bought a few of these USB air pumps just to see how they'd do powering the filtration here. It doesn't work as good as I was hoping. So those will come off, and we'll tie them into the new pump that I got. I had this pump right here, this air pump. I got this one off of Amazon as well. It was like $58 or something delivered, and that's what's driving all of these right now. And because the last couple of pumps that I had were just those Whisper 100-gallon varieties, and they didn't put enough air out to really get water kind of moving here. So everything was kind of stale. There was like a couple of bubbles coming out. Now these things are just insane. So there's all of that. I'll take you back to the Blue Star Endler tank quick. We will touch base with my son's tank first. Here we are at the son's tank. Same kind of thing as last time. Still have a couple of yellow shrimp. We see them every once in a while in here. He's got his cool little corner powered, air powered filter there. Box filter. A ton of these guppies. Lots of plants. His plants seem to be doing really well. And then, of course, just like the rest of the fish room, just so much duckweed that you can't even see through it. Perfect. So that's that. He does have some, I think this is hygrophilia here. And then he had some hornwort floating up top there. And then another little piece of hornwort, or excuse me, of hygrophilia. And then a bunch of water wisteria that's floating in there too. And we do have this little pump. Oh, you can see one of his yellow shrimp right there. See him on the sponge? Yeah, so we got this little tiny 10-gallon filter here. And that runs just kind of slow. This filter gets clogged up really quick. But if we didn't have that on there, then all these little babies would get sucked up into the impeller. So most of the filtration right now is being done by this box filter, which is pretty cool. Alright, 1 second, I'll take you to the Blue Star Endler tank. And here is the Blue Star Endler tank. This is a 20-gallon long, heavily planted, you know, not on purpose. I'm just lazy. tons of duckweed on top. We've got this little breeder box still, which I just kind of left hanging on here. There's a bunch of little baby shrimp that kind of, I think they're getting sucked up in through this bottom of this thing, and they just kind of get blown into here. So I just let them stay in there. They seem to be doing fine. This room in the basement is kind of segregated from the rest of the room, or from the rest of the basement, and it kind of gets cold in this room. So, you know, I was trying to keep an eye on temperature just in this little breeder box, because there's not a ton of water that comes through here all the time. And this, you know, the big tank is obviously heated. We've got yeah, one of those heaters, I can't remember the name, Finnex heaters right there. I think that's just 100 watt for this 20-gallon tank, and this basically runs 24/7 now. So I might have to upgrade the size of the heater for the winter here, just because this room is super cold. Oop, and I just realized, you see that yellow shrimp there? Focus. There we go. Got to get him out of there. This tank, this is where I've been kind of selectively breeding the reds that came out of that coal tank. And they've been here for, I don't know, 5 or 6 months. I don't remember offhand. And they've been producing some pretty good quality red cherries. There's some that are, you know, less than desirable, and some that have some candy striping on them and stuff. But there's tons of them that just look amazing. Of course, I can't really... Oh, there's one right there in the bottom, right on that plant. Yep. So there's a bunch of them in here that look like that, males and females. And then there's a few that are just kind of eh. And then sometimes, every once in a while, you get more of these yellows that come out here, because this, you know, most of these guys from the coal tank were from a yellow colony. So I also threw in some different ones that I had. At one point, I had a big mix-up with yellow and red shrimp, and all of those guys started off the coal tank. So there was reds and yellows to begin with, and now there's all kinds of colors in there, and they've created their own colors is what's going on. So every once in a while we'll have a throwback. So this one obviously needs to be selectively culled still. I'll go through here a little bit later. I leave 2 males in this tank, male blue star endlers. Oops. And the rest of them are all females or youngs. So the males that I'm selecting for have a bright red stripe on the bottom part of their tail, like a bottom sword almost. And that's kind of what I want. So all the other males that pop up in here, I pull them out. I stick them in the cold shrimp tank with, with all their buddies that are in there right now, and watch their patterning. And if it's better than the current males that I have in here, I'll swap them out. Otherwise, I just pull them and they get to live their life in there. The females and the young will all stay in here. Just the males that get pulled out. You can see there's some pretty good sized females in here now. And they're doing their job. They have filled up this tank. The snails have also filled up this tank. Is what it is. Again, the traditional Christmas moss and moneywort or whatever that is, and some water wisteria, a bunch of crypts, some AR, some red Ludwigia, and tons of algae. Just growing on everything. Covering this entire piece of wood. Yeah, that's a piece of wood there. So anyway, that pretty much wraps this up. Hopefully I'll be doing some more videos when I start setting up my auto water change system. I do have one more 10-gallon tank, and that tank is going to be set up for Caridina shrimp. Not really sure which ones I'm going with yet, but I'm going to give it 2 months to cycle because I'm using Akadama for the substrate, which is like a bonsai clay soil. So I got to put that in there, and then it's going to take a few months for that tank to cycle because it doesn't leach any ammonia or anything like that. So we'll give it its full 2 months. That should put us closer to warmer weather, I hope, because right now I'm not ordering anything. It's just too cold here. Yesterday it was like -25 out, so not fun. Definitely not going to put fish or shrimp through that, and not going to trust the post office or UPS to, take care and make sure things don't freeze. So we're just not going to tempt fate. We'll wait till it's warmer to order. But anyways, that'll wrap it up then. And, I was going to show you one more thing. The food. Hold on one sec. Alright, so here is this food that I made out of duckweed. So I originally tried to make like a wet thing, so I had all this frozen duckweed. I put it in a blender and tried to puree it. Well, it doesn't want to puree without a lot of liquid, so I added a bunch more liquid to it and added some other stuff to try to thicken it up. Then it ended up being like a soup instead, so I kind of, it was still big chunks of duckweed. So I flattened it out in a sheet pan, I let it dry completely, and when I fed it, it would float. And I didn't like that. So we went back, took all of that dried out stuff, put it back in a blender, dry, and just pulverized it to a fine powder. And then I added in some a bentonite powder. That's like a clay, kind of like Montmorillonite. I added some bentonite to it, and I added some spirulina, and then I had some nettle leaf that I kind of did the same thing, just pulverized it and added it in, and then mixed all of those things together, added a little bit of water, just enough to make kind of like a dough, and then flattened it out on a sheet pan with some wax paper underneath it. And I made a whole, there's like 3 containers full of food for about a couple of days worth of work, I guess, if you want to get technical. But then this food here, all of this will sink now. So if I drop a piece in, you can watch it drop. There it goes. Drops like a rock. And all of the fish and shrimp have been just loving it. You can see a little piece that I already threw in this tank earlier. And got some little babies on that one and some bigger ones. They're just munching on it. That's that light green stuff that's sitting in there. So when it breaks down, it looks kind of like like a pile of green stuff. And the fish and the shrimp have been loving it. I've been feeding it to everybody, and it seems to be doing pretty good. So that's that. Oh, I want to say I actually added some bee pollen into this mix too. Most of the stuff I just picked up from my like local health food store, you know, Whole Foods, or this co-op that we have up here. Yeah, so it's all organic stuff. The duckweed obviously, you know, came out of all the tanks, and I bet you it was probably a 1-gallon Ziploc packed full of frozen duckweed, and that's what went into making this one batch. Well worth it if you have a ton of duckweed and nothing to do with it. If you know, like me, if you can't seem to get rid of the duckweed no matter what you do. If you can't beat them, join them. Alright. Well, I'm going to cut off right here, and we'll catch you on the next one. Peace.